In 1886, in the quiet backwoods of Tennessee, a story unfolded that even today feels almost too disturbing to believe. A girl, barely 12 years old, was led to the altar as a bride. She was not just shockingly young. She was also part of a family so deeply entangled in inbreeding that the entire community whispered about them in hushed tones. Some said they were cursed. Others believed they were simply a forgotten clan, left to spiral into their own darkness. But what really happened to the girl who would become known as America's most inbred bride? Imagine for a moment a child, still clutching her dolls, suddenly dressed in a wedding gown, expected to become a wife. Can you even picture what must have gone through her mind? Do you think she understood what marriage even meant at that age? Or was she simply obeying, as children always did in those isolated times? The family she came from had been living in isolation for generations. Marriages between cousins, uncles, even step-siblings were whispered about. By the time this 12-year-old was given away, her bloodline was already fragile. Locals remembered the family as pale, sickly, with features that almost seemed off. Have you ever seen an old photo of someone that gave you chills, as if something about them wasn't quite right? As the ceremony ended, the town looked on in silence. Some later claimed they saw tears in her eyes. Others swore she smiled nervously, as if trying to understand why her life had changed so suddenly. And here's the haunting part. Less than a year later, she gave birth, a child raising a child, both bound to a legacy of secrecy and inbreeding. Can you imagine the physical and emotional toll that must have taken on her? What would you have done if you had been in her place? Trapped between family expectations and your own stolen childhood. The legend of this girl only grew darker. It said that by the age of 20, her body was already frail, her health deteriorating. Some claim she bore 5 children, all with noticeable deformities. Others say 3 of those children never lived past infancy. Was it the curse of inbreeding? Or was it simply the tragic fate of an era that didn't understand genetics, medicine, or even basic human compassion? The locals avoided the family's cabin. They whispered that strange screams echoed at night. A midwife later told stories of babies born with twisted limbs, haunting cries, and eyes that seemed to stare far beyond their years. Do you think these are exaggerations passed down like folklore, or do you believe there may be hidden truths buried in those forgotten hills? By the late 1890s, the bride was barely 30 years old but looked decades older. Some said her hair had turned gray. Others claimed her hands shook constantly, as though her body was breaking down piece by piece. But here's where the story twists even more. After a certain night in 1899, the family vanished. Their cabin was abandoned. Plates of food still sat on the table. The hearth was cold. But strangely, the beds looked as though no one had slept in them. No one ever saw the woman or her children again. What do you think happened? Did they flee to escape shame? Or did something more sinister take them? Even now, more than a century later, researchers and local historians still argue. Some suggest disease wiped out the bloodline. Others think the family moved deeper into the Appalachian woods, where inbred clans still survive to this day, hidden from the world. And then there are the darkest theories, that they were killed by neighbors who feared their curse. Which explanation do you believe feels closest to the truth? And here's one final, chilling note. In an old family Bible discovered in a nearby farmhouse, there was a name scribbled in fading ink. Mary, child bride. Beneath it, a single line, taken too soon but not soon enough. Who wrote that? A grieving husband? A bitter relative? Or someone who knew the family secrets too well? So now I ask you, what do you think? Was this the story of a girl destroyed by her family's choices? Or a cursed bloodline that was always doomed to disappear? If you discovered an old wedding photo of a bride who looked far too young, would you dare to keep it in your house? Or would you feel it carried something dark with it? This story leaves us with more questions than answers, and maybe that's why it has survived for so long. But one thing is certain, the bride of Tennessee was not just a forgotten child. She was a symbol of how darkness can grow in silence, when no one dares to speak the truth. And before you leave, tell me in the comments, do you believe this family was cursed, or just victims of ignorance? Do you think she ever knew what happiness was? What would you have done if you had lived in that town and witnessed her wedding? If you're drawn to uncovering the forgotten, the macabre, and the chilling truths of history, make sure you subscribe right now, because more stories like this are waiting to be told.